put it and share it all over the place. Because if I put
Okay,
it in
great.
if I put it in a specific group, then it'll have the group restrictions on it. So
Okay.
give us just 1 minute here. We're almost there. See here. I always like to make sure I mute the actual Facebook live stream because otherwise we start talking over ourselves.
Restrictions on it. So.
Just like that. There we go.
Yes, there we go.
All right, so we are live. Good morning and hello, everybody. Welcome to your fabulous Friday. I'm Vahil Vigil. I am a women's empowerment coach and founder and creator of the Empowerment Empire. And one of the pillars to our organization are our publications. So our regularly scheduled program, our regular publication is Magistra Magazine. Magistra is Latin for woman teacher. We publish it every quarter. And we do one really special publication project each year. Well, this one decided it was going to take 2 years. But I am so grateful the way it all worked out. And I'm so excited to be spending so much time recently really promoting the book and talking about it and really featuring our authors. And today we have another really, really fantastic author joining us. So I really want to say thank you to Heather Bravo Martinez for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm good. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope it is a wonderful day wherever everyone's located at.
It really is. The sun is shining over here. I mean, you can tell with the light coming in. It's fantastic for live streaming.
Definitely it is. We're 102 degrees up here in Northern California. So we are baking, but it's a beautiful day. And so we're very fortunate in that aspect.
I've been missing my ocean lately because I've been spending time here in the mountains with my family, and I have to say I've been missing my ocean breeze of from Oceanside, Carlsbad down to San Diego. So I can't wait to get back.
Exactly. No, I believe it. Believe me, I'm missing SoCal. I haven't been back to Southern California in about 2 years. So I'm really missing the life down there because my family is very concentrated there. There's a lot of history, and so. I'm missing that area, so I'm ready to definitely get back there as well.
So today, I want us to talk a little bit about the Boss Latinas Anthology. So what I'm going to do is let me share. I've been sharing pieces of the book with our audience here, as well as been talking to our specific authors about their chapters. So let me just read what we put together about the book. So the 31 phenomenal women who have shared their stories come from various places of the globe and have come together to inspire you, to empower you, and to remind you that you too can choose the life that you so seek. In 2020, a group of amazing women got together to talk about their stories of life and how they became the phenomenal professionals and business owners they came to be over a magnificent lunch and a small group of listeners. This event is now referred to as Power Luncheons, hosted by the Empowerment Empire. This opportunity planted a seed in my brain, and I knew that these amazing stories needed to be shared with the world to inspire countless of women and girls to pursue their dreams with gusto, no matter the challenging circumstances and harsh conditions of life situations. As Power Luncheons continued regularly, as they do, the inspiration for the book grew. And so did the numbers of women expressing interest in participating. So thus, the Boss Latinas Anthology was born. Over the following 2 years, we invited and collaborated with as many Latinas in business as possible to now present to you the following 31 women sharing their experiences of life, struggle, hardships, overcome, and hard worked for successes. The goal for Boss Latinas, the anthology, is to inspire and encourage our sisters today and our sisters of tomorrow to take hold of their dreams and to never give up on them. And I want to follow that up with the introduction that was crafted for the book. Really speaks to, I think, the reason why we had that hardship of the compiling of the stories. And I know that Within, culturally speaking, we often are told we should not be sharing the difficulties in our lives. We should not be opening up
Right.
our, proverbial, piles of laundry to be shared with the world. And I
Right.
think we need to change, well, I know we need to change perspective about that
Yeah.
statement. Let me read our acknowledgments. I would like to acknowledge the extraordinary strength that every one of the forthcoming women have exhibited through their willingness to share their lives with us. Thank you all for sharing this amazing project with your communities and your networks to get the word out about our groundbreaking anthology and focusing on the lives of Boss Latinas. When I first decided to invite and feature amazing women to share their stories in an anthology, I thought it was going to be fairly straightforward. I'd put a call out for participants and my sisters would join me. I knew that just within 30 days, I would have 50 women willing to share their stories share their stories with the world to inspire our sisters and all the future boss Latinas of the world to go for our dreams no matter what. But sisters, I can tell you that is certainly not what happened. My labor of love is now this phenomenal book, but which was also a bit of an uphill battle. Not a battle with our sisters, but a battle with our culture. Our culture that tells us our voices are better left quiet, soft spoken, and most certainly not ones to call attention to the injustices we have faced as women, as mothers, daughters, sisters, leaders, students, military veterans, and caretakers of our community. In the end, we choose to speak up. This book is our testament to the fact that we can live the lives that we so choose and share about it. This is our testament to our sisters that we can rise and we can overcome the injustices we have experienced. Through being open with you about our personal and collective success and the struggling setbacks that try to keep us down, we are claiming our space in our strong Latin cultures. By writing our stories for the world, we are choosing to replace the fear we may have once felt with the power that we share as strong, valiant, and exceptional boss Latinas. So to those strong, valiant, and exceptional boss Latinas, I would like to welcome one of them, Heather Bravo Martinez, to share with us your experience of participating in this book and how it has really changed your life and brought another perspective to your own story. What has it been like for you thus far?
First off, thank you for allowing me to be part of this phenomenal book. I didn't realize going into this book how many women I would meet and just connect with and still have that sisterhood. I feel like I have 31 hermanas that are here with me, amigas. We talk daily. I mean, to yourself, you and I talk daily on social media. I think Marisol and I speak, constantly. Olga and I have touched base, and they're grooming me for the next level of success. And so that's been I think that's the biggest take of it is a lot of times it's very hard to make that connection within our own heritage. We tend to bring each other down, or we tend to be the most prejudiced towards each other, depending upon what Latina or Latino culture you come from, and also by skin coloring. The darker you are, the more prejudiced they are towards you, or the lighter you are, oh, you're snobbish, or you're, stuck up, and things of that sort. So it feels like for me that barrier has been broken with meeting so many Latinas from different backgrounds, different cultures, or even similar cultures to myself. When you and I spoke about writing the book, I was like, okay, I can pull up mine. And we had just connected with several family members on my dad's side, on the Bravo side. And one of them was my 86-year-old great aunt who, everyone's like, she's different. My aunt is very different. They always said, oh, she's the shady one because she's always going out doing things and business ventures. I mean, my aunt was one of those. She started her own business. She worked for a railroad at a time that it was a men's position to work for a railroad.
Yeah.
She joined the sheriff's office when it was a man's time to be in law enforcement. So many things that go into it. And so writing this book has really given me the opportunity to understand what hindered so many women within even my family or even in our culture, but also what kind of hindered me until I came into my own. I lost my mom at 35 years old. She was only 60, and I was like, okay, how do you deal with this? In our culture, you don't grieve, you don't cry, you don't, you know, anything of that sort. So writing this book really opened up a lot of understanding, what, no matter if you're the chunky little brown girl who's sitting next to these Caucasian girls, I was always the one, I never looked at it as being a bad thing of having a little bean burrito or taquito for lunch. I loved it, but they would make fun of it, like, oh, well, why do I have a bologna sandwich, it was always that kind of thing. And I think in the book I write, like I wrote, in middle school when I went to public school, someone told me, hey, if you're going to be a nerd Mexican girl, can you at least be one who's smart enough to speak Spanish, because you're stupid if you can't. And so those were things that built me, or being called gorda, or hey, hey, 2 tons, why are you, always eating something, and that wouldn't always be the case. So I share that perspective. And I think the biggest thing that hit is having people, having friends that you see as true friends saying, hey, you have 2 strikes, you're a female and you're Mexican, and you're never going to succeed. And that takes you to a whole nother level. I was very much raised knowing that I was different, knowing that I was a female and I was a Latina, and I was going to have to work 10 times harder in order to be successful at something that a man is successful at and gets paid 10 times more than what a female does doing that job, just being a woman. But then being Latina on top of it definitely does make a difference in that piece. And so understanding that, but also understanding where certain slang comes from in regards how we present ourselves. Some of us call ourselves Latinas, some call ourselves Chicanas, some go by Hispanic. And so really understanding where those terms came from, the definition, and where you fall into those. So that's what has really, I'll be honest, writing this book has really opened up a whole window view of how now I even handle business, how I handle myself. And it's also given me the empowerment to decide, what, I don't know if I want to work another 20 years for someone else. Maybe now I want to start my own business path and opportunity and move down that path of aspect. So it's really opened up my eyes a lot in a whole world, and having the support of family. But not only that, my work family has been so supportive. They were so excited to see Boss Latina come out. And I think you've seen some of the posts where they threw like a little party and there were like cupcakes and everything,
That's so
Um,
fantastic. I want to share your cover page with everyone. There
yeah.
we go.
So a dear friend of mine did the headshot. Stephanie did a phenomenal job. It's really hard to find people who can photograph a Latina as well, because our skin complexion isn't like everyone else's. And she does a phenomenal job at doing it. But it definitely, being in the wine industry, there's very few Latinos and Latinas have been in the industry, but our roles have been different. And so now I think how I view our culture as a whole, not just Mexican American, Dominican, or Puerto Rican, I see it as a glass of wine. We are a bunch of nationalities that are brought together. We ferment with each other very well. And then when you open up this culture that we have a bold, robust bouquet of rich heritage that when people see this, they're like, oh my God, I want to be Mexican. I mean, do you know how many people travel to Dominican, Puerto Rico, Mexico? And they're like, I want to be the culture. We're just very vibrant and we're just very loving, welcoming people once you get to know us. But the thing is, we're not that way to each other. So I'm hoping this book helps build that connection and bridge, that instead of tearing each other down, like, hey, gorda, you're so fat, no one's going to want to marry you. Or I heard someone tell me yesterday, if you're at 30 years old and you're not married and you don't have children, then you failed in your life, because that's what our culture has taught us. No, you haven't. I have a sister-in-law who's younger, and she has no kids, but she travels the world. And I'm like, hey, girl power, you go. I mean, that is phenomenal that you do it. So I'm hoping this empowers young women at my daughter's age of 16 and all the way up to 85, that no matter where you're at in life and no matter what your race is, you can still do what you need to do and you can overcome the challenges. The best thing I've heard is no matter what you've been a victim of, if you've been raped, if you've been harassed, if you've come from a very abusive family, you can't let that define you. What you do is you take it, you heal from it, and you take your story and you share it with other people, not to get pity or not to play a victim card, but you use it to build yourself stronger and hope that you can help someone else out of that situation that hopefully is at the beginning where you can get them out and you can share that story to empower them. It doesn't define who you are. It just makes you a stronger and more a person who strives to have that empowerment for yourself and others.
I love it. I love it. I could not agree more. I know that when I started sharing, personal stories about myself and about some of the hardships and about, the violence in relationships that I experienced, it was it was really scary. It was really hard to admit that everything is not okay. And I talk a little bit about that in my story about how it was, you know, I was that picture perfect relationship. I had my
Mhm.
daughter, and I had this beautiful partner, and we looked so great together on paper and in public. We
Right.
matched very well, but then, behind closed doors, the violence was just unbearable.
Yeah.
And how I would have to try to pull myself together to, put that smile back on if anyone were to ever come and knock on
Right.
our door, when we had just been in this, battle, moments
Right.
before. And the more we talk about that, the more we can lift those veils, that
Right.
we don't have to suffer in silence, and that those types of situations are acceptable, because they're not. I
Exactly.
want to thank you and so many of the women who shared the hardships of their stories. And I talked yesterday with one of our authors, Marifa Mendez,
Mhm.
and we talked a little bit about some of the struggles that she put in her chapter. And then I wanted to really reiterate that it's not that our stories are all about hardships and horrible things
Right.
that happen, but it's really about, lifting the veil on saying that these things are not okay. But you know what? They did happen to us. And this is how we were able to overcome. This is what we've done with our lives. We did not let those horrible situations define us. And in fact, they fueled us to speak out, to make change, to be activists, to want to empower other women, because we know what it's like to feel the power being stripped away from us. I want to read, so that everyone can have your bio. So
Right.
what was very important to me, if you go to our authors page on magistra.us, you'll be able to download a document called the author profiles. And what it is the first page of each author's chapter has something such as Heather's here. They have her name above the top, and then her photograph, and then a small piece of information here, and then a little bit of her bio, and then how to connect with her as well. So I'd like to read Heather's for everyone.
Sure.
So Heather Bravo Martinez is a Mexican-American born and raised in Northern California. She resides in Stockton, California with her familia. Heather is proud of her strong and rich heritage. She is a human resources business partner with Delicado Family Wines located in Manteca. Heather is currently working on her Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and is hoping to continue to obtain her master's degree in Business Administration. Let me know when you do that, because I got my MBA a little while ago.
I definitely will.
She is a strong ally for the LGBTQ plus community, has volunteered at local dining halls, feeding the homeless alongside her daughter. Heather, at a young age, volunteered to serve and cook breakfast and work at social functions at the American Legion halls, supporting veterans, which we also have in common. We have so much in common.
We do. We found that out.
Uh-huh. Heather has worked in the HR field for 20 years. She has worked with local Catholic schools and charities and church volunteering to run a fall festival as the main chairperson for 1 year. In addition to being a troop leader with her daughter's Girl Scout troop, whoop, whoop, troop leaders,
Yay.
Heather has a passion for working with young women and empowering them to go into the business world. Empowerment and development of women start with positive communication and breaking the habits of focusing on their insecurities. Heather's favorite quote is from her favorite show, Scandal, of which is also my favorite
Thank you.
show. Oh my gosh. I am many things, and stupid is not one of them. I am a gladiator. Gladiators don't run, they fight. They slay dragons, they wipe off the blood, they stitch up their wounds, and they live to fight another day. I wear the white hat. Once you accept and are proud of your heritage and the richness of where you come from, and accept and love yourself, you will see all your success fall into place. I I read over all of the chapters for our authors, and I wanted to share a few of the moments that I think really struck with me or stuck with me in Heather's chapter. Not only there are a lot of them that I just, like I said yesterday in Marifa's interview, is that it's so great to be able to like you said,
Right.
now we have 30 other friends
Right.
that are connecting with one another who share a similar cultural background, who share a similar mindset of success and empowerment and working through hardships in life. And I love the really great women that I have been able to meet. So and I relate also as in where, growing up, as a Spanish woman, we are Apache, Navajo, Choctaw,
Hmm.
Cherokee, Croatian, and Spanish. And um, I was surrounded by a community of Spanish speakers, and I was not raised to speak Spanish. Um, and how hard that is
Very. It's
when you're
very hard.
growing up. It's defeating. So I want to write, as you share, as a child I made friends but never really felt a strong connection to many people. I had and still have one friend who has been with me for 40 plus years. Candace became more of my sister and a strong part of my life with my family. Candace has a love for Mexican culture and my family. My mom and dad became her second set of parents, and we shared our grandparents as if they were our own. My insecurity was about my weight. I was chunky and brown and was reminded every day of how I was larger than the other kids in the class. I would even be treated differently by some of the teachers. As I started into middle school, my mom decided to move me to public school, and I cried the whole time. I had to learn my way in this new culture that I am now a part of. I remember a Mexican girl coming up to me and telling me, if you want to be a nerd, at least be a smart one who speaks Spanish. Like, kids are mean.
They are. We are the meanest.
Kids are mean.
And especially young girls coming into puberty are the meanest and most vindictive at that time. And some of them never grow out of it. And I see it every day at work. I see women in tears. I'm constantly fighting their battles or wiping the tears or the scars because so and so's gossiping about so and so. So it's almost in the world, it's like we just have this mentality. It's okay to beat each other down, and it's so
We
not.
have to stop doing that. I think
Yeah.
what we have found is, in reading some of these stories and reading some of the chapters, and then in meeting with all of you amazing women, is that we all share that story about how, ridiculed by women of our own culture because we weren't cultural enough,
Right.
or we were too little of this and we were too much of that. And what I think I really love about the book is that the women who are culturally represented of Latin cultures in this book span the gamut of
100%.
all different cultures, that women who identify as a Latina, and how we've been able to come together and how we share those stories. And I think that's one of the things that I will hope is that when our audience out there, and when educators and when moms and sisters and aunties are picking up this book and reading it, that you realize the lifelong impact that those hurtful words make, and create for women in their lives. And then, so what can we do, going forward, in the way that we treat each other as adults, and the way that we instill in our children how we need to be kind with one another and embrace all of the things that are different about us, because
Right.
our differences make us stronger. Our eclectic nature, makes our uniqueness is what makes us culturally so beautifully diverse. And
It
so,
does.
like a fine wine, like a complex mole, how
Exactly.
things go into those.
That there's like a thousands ingredients that go into a mole, right? A mole is something that is created over days. It's not a fast fix. I think we all know that. Anyone who has made a true mole knows how many ingredients, right?
It's not a quick effort.
No, it definitely isn't.
I want to read this part. As Latinas and women, we should be building each other up. We should be grooming the next generation to be strong and find themselves before associating themselves with a view of what they should be or losing themselves. As Latinas, we can at times be the worst critics of each other. We will tear each other down, and we need to teach our next generation something different. We can break the cycles of focusing on someone's insecurities and instead build up their self confidence on the thing that they feel the insecurity in. Encourage them to be strong willed self thinkers, that they can be whatever they want to be. My biggest thing to say to any young woman, including my daughter, is this: never wait for someone to hand you the opportunity. Never depend on anyone else other than yourself. Yet always make sure that you surround yourself with strong women who are willing to guide you. And when you get to where you want to be, pay back to the next generation. We must teach ourselves and our next generations not to be scared to demand what you want and what you deserve. Do not settle for anything less. Surround yourself with positive people. Be proud of your heritage and the background you come from. Be that boss Latina who is the head jefa.
Yeah. And I will tell you, prior to a little bit before you and I met and we started talking about the book, we started doing the ancestry DNA and going through it. And we always knew we had a rich history. But to see so many strong women and to see the fact that my family walked over from Guanajuato, Mexico to the United States, to see that some of my family were the first settlers of Los Angeles and carried high positions political wise and very well known in history. It has empowered me. Like, hey, these guys came from nothing and they built something and they have names in history. They carried political positions and so in all right, my grandfather carried a well position in his work and my dad was higher up in his work, and I'm following that path. And to any Latina woman out there who's like, hey, I want to be the boss, I want to make a 6-figure income, I want to do this, but I don't think any Latino man or woman will want to be with me when I'm the breadwinner, you are completely wrong. It took a long time to find my significant other, but when people, especially his family, say, well, she makes more money than you and she has more success than you. Well, you define success. He has a success in his own right. Bless his heart, because I'm not the easiest person to live with. He tells people I got a hot-blooded Latina who's half Latina, Italian, and Irish, and she loses it.
All
But
fire, baby.
all fire. God bless him. But when people say, "Wow, your wife makes more money than you do. How do you feel?" He's like, hey, I'm happy. I'm living the life. I'm living the life with her. I'm alongside. So I believe behind every strong woman, there's always a strong partner behind her and a strong family value. And that's what builds us. And if it's not there, then we create our own. The one thing I want to tell all women is don't ever compromise, or figure out how much you're willing to compromise for what you want, for what people demand from you. I think the biggest thing I've learned, to be honest with you, especially joining the company I'm with now, because they're very family owned and they're very mindful of people's time, is you only have so much that you can give. You have to first give to yourself, and you need to make sure that you're well taken care of. And so if someone's demanding you to compromise your morals, your ethics, your well-being, because they want more from you, that's not the best relationship, whether it's work, home, anything, to be in. And that's when you need to cut it off. And I'll be honest, writing this book and meeting all of you wonderful women who are more like sisters to me now, and definitely part of my family. There's been so many people that it's not that I've cut them off, but it's like, wow, you're negative, because everything that just comes out is just a vomit of negativity, and I don't need that. We're just building so much up. So your life starts changing, and it's not something to be afraid of. And I think as Latinas, we've been afraid of that. But we need to learn history repeats itself. So you really need to look at what your past ancestors have done and what can I do differently so I don't fall into that same trap of an abusive relationship, or a spouse who says, you need to stay home and cook for me and be barefoot and pregnant and have kids. If that's not what you want, how do you break that cycle, and how do you get out of those things? There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom. God bless them. It is a job upon their own, and they're not paid enough at all for it. But if that's not what you want, how do you break that cycle? And I think that that's what we're scared of, you know. So I think this book is phenomenal. I hope it hits so many people, and not just Latinas. I think any race can definitely pick up this book and read it and be like, wow, I went through that. Wow, I went through that. Or, oh my gosh, someone went through that. How do you help someone who's been in that? And it gives them the courage to reach out to us of, hey, can you tell me more?
I think that that is one of the things that so many people can learn from reading the 31 stories that are held in the Boss Latinas Anthology, is that it's there are so many different ways that you amazing women, that all of us within the book have had to navigate difficulties and struggles and find our way through darkness. And I think when we share these stories, and when the book is shared with others, that it encourages someone who might be knee deep in that kind of a situation now to
Right.
see there are women who have gone through this, and there are women who have gotten through this to get to the other side. And this is what she did. You know, this
Right.
is what 31 women decided to do to get themselves out of their own dark space that they found themselves in, and let it encourage you. Let it encourage the reader, that maybe the reader knows someone who is also going through a hard time in a hard relationship, or they're trying to do something different and they're being told no. And I think the diversity of the stories that are being shared in the Boss Latinas Anthology is so powering, so fueling, I think, to allow our sisters to be able to, you know, to recognize a bad situation and learn from our experiences of how we've been able to navigate through to ultimately to get to the point where we are loving and creating, you know, positive lives, where we are
Right.
now trying to share positivity with others, and empowerment with others, and acceptance with others of all of the, you know, the various diversities and the cultural diversities that we experience on such a consistent basis. And I think that the more that we continue to share, one of the big goals of creating this anthology was to encourage the sharing of our stories. The more that we share about our personal selves, the more that we realize we have so much in common with each other, that we don't have to create this otherness to get ahead. You know,
Correct.
when we realize how similar we all are, we come together to support one another even more, it seems.
And, you know, even not just as women. So just to share a little story real quick before we
Yes,
have to
sure.
go, you know, I was sitting at work one day in a conference room, and I had one of my fellow coworkers with me, and he knew, it was a gentleman, that I was writing this book. A couple of them knew here and there. And he said, hey, Heather, you know, so I heard you're going to be one of, you know, 30 women who are going to be in a book. So what's it about? So I was kind of telling him about it. And he's Latino, and expecting his first baby with his wife. And I said, you know, really it's about our struggles and tribulations that we see within our own heritage or culture. And I go, the one thing that I always fought with is I've always been that chunky little brown girl, as you read, and it's being called being gorda. Like, we find that insecurity and we just beat it down, beat it down, beat it down. And we're so much told it's out of love. And as he's listening to me, he goes, he goes, amen, sister, preach it. Because even as a man, growing up, he goes, I'm chunky, I would be called gordo, or, hey, gordo, oh, you're eating another bowl of beans, So he goes, we do tear each other down, and not just women, but men. But I feel like you women in our culture get it more so. And he goes, I can't wait for this book to come out. One, just to read it because I know one of the authors, right? But two, just to see how much, even as a guy, I can relate to what you guys have went through. So I think that as this book comes out and people start reading it, maybe even their husbands, their sons, I think you're going to get both dynamics reading this and realizing, wow, I went through that too, but he goes, us men have always had a seat at the table. Now it's time for women. And the industry I'm in, they're like, we know that this culture is so rich and so reversed. And we know that you guys have been in this industry, but mostly on the outside picking and harvesting. And they're looking so much to bring this phenomenal culture of Latino into the upper positions of those HR business partners, directors, CEOs, because we do have so much to offer. And there's such a market and a flair. I mean, the Latino culture is coming into the middle income working class bracket right now. And so now all these people are trying to figure out, how do we market to these people? But we as ourselves are trying to figure out, how do we build them so that they don't keep repeating the path of falling back down, right? So it's been a tremendous experience. Every time I open the book, I'm on chapter 3, because every time I read a chapter, I break down in tears to the point I'm hyperventilating. And it's not, some of them are sad, but it's because pieces of these stories hit my soul and my heart, and I can just feel what they were going through at that time. So I'm like taking it piece by piece, because as I'm sitting there reading them, I'm just like breaking down in tears. I'm like, I need to go rehydrate, because it's just so powerful. So I'm hoping that people have that experience as well.
Thank you so very much for joining me this morning and for
Thank
wanting to
you.
share. Everybody who is watching us today and who will be watching this video in the future, we'll be putting it over on our new Empowerment Empire YouTube channel. Please post your comments, post your questions. Please post your praises of these amazing women for being willing to share their stories. And if you want to reach out for any other reason, we are great connectors. For those of you who have a need, who maybe something in the book really sparks you and you realize that you would like to talk to someone yourself. Through collective collaboration, we all rise is the mantra of our organization. And if I can't connect you directly with something that you need, with a resource that you need, there are definitely going to be women within our organization and within our network that can help to connect you with the resource that you may need. Whether it's emergency services, or whether it is counseling services, or therapists, or coaches, or women to empower you. Our organization is designed to really be a connecting, or connector of resources for individuals who are wanting to rise. And just as one of our most amazing authors here, Heather Bravo Martinez, and myself, Vigil Vigil, it has been a true honor and a labor of love to produce this anthology. And we really hope that you enjoy it and that you support the distribution of the book. Getting it out to your community centers, to your churches, to your women resource centers is our goal. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't announce that we are doing a book tour for the Boss Latinas Anthology. And the first stop is going to be our Power Luncheon in October, which will be held in Las Vegas. And I will go ahead and post the details below on how you can sign up for that and meet some of the authors who will be in attendance, as well as, to bring your book and have it signed by some of our authors, and to experience a power luncheon, on top of experiencing, meeting some of these phenomenal women. So Heather, thank you so very much for joining us today. And I know that you and I will most certainly be in touch again very soon.
Definitely. And thank you so much for having me. And, for all of you out there, if there's any questions, as you stated, just, post them. But hopefully within the next 3 months, I will be launching Latina Convo, a podcast coming up in YouTube channel. And so I would love to have so many of our authors on there and just having these
great.
conversations of how we feel. But thank you so much. There's so much opportunity coming from this, and I wish everyone a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Heather. Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you. You too. Thank you.